During the events of God of War 4, it was teased many times throughout the games that Thor would make an appearance within the franchise. Then within the ending scenes of God of War 2018, Thor is then introduced as one of Kratos' main adversaries throughout the game and would then battle it out against Kratos. However, what if we substitute Kratos with Thor's Marvel comic book counterpart instead and see how well he stacks up against that version of Thor and find out who truly wins between the two? Thor, talking about the God of War version, should comfortably scale above that of Baldur and should definitely scale above that of the World Serpent or Jormungandr. As we know, Thor should automatically scale above that of Baldur, as Ymir is asked by Atreus who would win between Kratos and Thor. And Ymir, after seeing all of these feats from Thor, such as Thor beating the World Serpent so hard they literally went back in time, which I'll get into, states that he doesn't know or couldn't come to the conclusion on who would truly win. Baldur being the same being who pushed Kratos so hard that Kratos thought he was the strongest mortal enemy he had ever fought up to that point, including past mortal enemies such as Hercules within the original God of War trilogy, however not including beings such as the original gods such as Zeus, Poseidon, and every single one of the other gods within that hierarchy. Prior to Baldur and Kratos' second fight, Baldur would then knock out the World Serpent in 3 straight blows. However, do keep in mind that this version of the Serpent was indeed weakened and caught off guard as well. Baldur can also tank the A tier imbued attacks, which you can argue has existence ratio properties due to Magni not coming back to life. In God of War 2018, the dead come back to life due to the overwhelming amount of souls that reside in Helheim, but nothing happens to that of Magni. He just doesn't come back, and even Mimir and Atreus are shocked by this, which you can make the claim that Magni's soul was directly erased from all of existence, as his soul doesn't dwell or reside in that of Helheim like every other person's soul does in this iteration or version of God of War. However, Baldur and Kratos would then have their second fight, in which Kratos would inevitably win, killing Baldur. And at the end of the game, Thor would then be properly introduced within the franchise, with Kratos and Thor now battling out to find out who truly wins between the two. However, Thor would then kill Kratos, and just as the player is trying to refight Thor again, Thor would then revive Kratos himself. And with this being said, Thor should logically scale above this lesser version of Kratos that is actively trying to suppress himself. Keep in mind, this is the same very suppressed Kratos that fought Baldur in the prior games, and even Freya, who was explicitly stated to be Odin's deadliest enemy in the 4th installment of God of War, and not Ymir, a being who stated to be the pure creation of chaos in the words of Mimir. In the art books, Freya is also stated to be an equal to that of Kratos. This is consistent as, like Kratos, Freya was directly stated to be the only one to stop Thor, or who can stop Thor during the massacre. To hammer this home further, within the God of War Codex within Ragnarok, Kratos himself believes that there would be no better ally against Thor and Odin than that of Freya herself, making it more consistent that Freya is on this Thor and Kratos levels of power. Now, I talked about Thor's fight with the World Serpent Jormungandr, however, I never actually went into it. Within that fight, Thor hit Jormungandr so hard they went back in time and furthermore splintered the World Tree or Yggdrasil. For reference, here's what a splintered tree looks like on Google Images. Before you sit here and say, well, tree level Thor, or Thor's only tree level Hashirama dupe, let me explain. The Yggdrasil not only stretches out to infinity, but surpasses both time and space on an infinite scope. As the goddess Freya states that every strand of the Yggdrasil transcends time and space, and even the card game, which is canon, also says that the Well of Fate contains endless possibilities, and from the God of War novelization, we know that the branch of the Yggdrasil could stretch out to infinity, as I said before, further solidifying this infinitely 4th dimensional scaling. We also know that prior to the trip to Alfheim, when Freya describes how the Bifrost is essential for traveling the realms, that the light that appears when doing this transcends everything within Midgard or the universe, as it directly says, and I quote, "They stared at a cosmic light shower that transcended all that existed in the realm." The 9 realms all occupy the same physical space, but on a different planes of existence, meaning the Yggdrasil is a multiversal level construct in scope and size, and even keep in mind, Thor is able to splinter and visibly damage this same tree. As for speed, Kratos is able to traverse within the realm between realms, which has no visible time within it. For those a bit skeptical, we know this to be the case as the Yggdrasil doesn't just surpass or is above, but transcends time and space in its entirety, making Thor around inaccessible speed or immeasurable speed at a high end. Even in the prior games, such as the original trilogy of the God of War games, Kratos is able to traverse Tartarus. Tartarus within the art book and within the game itself is stated to be endless and or immeasurable in scope. For those concerned with that of abilities and or hacks, Kratos can physically close tears in space and time with his bare hands. Thor, with the many statements of him being the strongest Aesir god, which is implied to be physically, by extension, he should be able or capable of doing this as well, since, well, he kinda did kill Kratos during their first encounter, and then revived him using Mjolnir. Realm tears are once again stated in the official Prima guide for God of War 2018 to be tears in space and time and threats to an entire realm, which is a universe with context. Doing this physically with no godly weapons in base means that they have space-time manipulation and can bypass conventional durability by affecting space and time with their attacks if they really wanted to do so. Thor can remove his opponent from the battlefield by hitting them so hard they can be sent to another universe entirely or get sent back in time completely, which he did during his fight against the world serpent Jormungandr. Thor is shown to be able to stun his foes with that of his lightning, which sort of binds them in a way, preventing them from moving, and the only reason Kratos resisted this, however, is because he has shown such resistances to hacks like this even back within his Greek iteration. However, the most important ability that Thor would have access to would be that of conceptual manipulation. Magic in God of War can exist before entire realities and universes within a pantheon's borders, being absent from time and space itself. Not only does Freya in the 2018 novelization tell Atreus this when explaining how realm travel works, and states that magic is far beyond what any man can understand. This is later prominent when Surtur tells Kratos that magic awaits them when heading to the spark of the world, or even when Chaos, the primordial of life itself and the source of all life that exists in the Greek universe, waged war against other primordials before time existed, before Uranus gave life to the universe, before all of these other realms like Nyxus, Thanatos, and Morpheus' realms existed as well. So the soul or life force isn't inherently conceptual by itself as it's given form by magic, but magic in God of War is, and any manipulation of it is conceptual manipulation. This is further shown with Fear Zeus, which is a type of magic, as it was directly stored in Pandora's box using a form of magic to seal it in the first place. Thor has this because Thor fought Faye in the past. This was a drunk Thor, mind you, and they were literally ripping apart the fabric of the Norse soul of a random bystander with just their energy being exerted, let alone actually targeting them with precision and the godly weapons that these gods wield in combat. The Norse soul is comprised of the form of someone's entire being, their direction, their mind, and their luck. We can also talk to these torn souls as well and see that their memories are affected as a result. This solidifies conceptual manipulation and soul manipulation for Thor in God of War. However, even in Ragnarok and both of the boss fights regarding Thor, he can straight up resist the effects of the absorption and energy absorption effects of the Siphon power suffixed in the Dropmere Spear even in the new game. Plus, these Siphon abilities that are absorption based straight up just don't work on Thor. Thor, like his God of War and MCU counterparts, share many similarities that may or may not affect his entire line of scaling. One of these similarities is the world tree known as the Yggdrasil. The Yggdrasil exists on every facet or plane of reality, spans the endless or infinite space-time, and has infinite planes of reality within it. The Yggdrasil has infinite universes and is stated to be essentially everything. This is further consistent as in Marvel, one universe contains an infinite amount of universes, and every moment each universe creates an infinite amount of universes and dimensions, which means one reality within Marvel is already an infinite multiversal macrocosm, because each moment creates an infinite multiverse. Pretty much, one universe within Marvel has an infinite amount of universes which spawn constantly. Each universe also has its own microverse. A microverse within Marvel Comics is a subatomic dimension that exists between all forms of matter in Marvel. This feat is actually greater than what it may seem like, as prior, each universe contains an infinite number of variants on a 3D spectrum, being followed by an infinite dimensional spectrum, something no mind in mankind could actually comprehend within Marvel. However, unlike other verses where my skepticism would then start to show and apply, this is not just simply an infinite amount of three-dimensional dimensions, however, an infinite amount of mathematical dimensions, which includes even transcendental dimensions such as 4 and 5D. We know this to be the case as the universe, or rather multiverse, is mathematical in nature and in its essence ontologically, and is derived from a mathematical dimensional hierarchy. Its dimensionality, referring to the Marvel multiverse, which would include the Yggdrasil, is essentially infinite and is grouped into innumerable layers that make up the totality of the multiverse. We know this to be the case as the core of the Yggdrasil is the heart of everything. This is further consistent as destroying the Yggdrasil would destroy all of creation. However, this is most likely only in reference to the Norse mythology within the Marvel cosmology and not the infinite transfinite Marvel cosmology or multiverse. Thor's body and divinity transcends dimensions and base. We know this is base Thor's body as Marvel goes on to explicitly state that this is only in reference to Thor's corporeal state and not something soteriological or spatial like spiritual ascension, meaning a base Thor would be beyond all mathematical notions of dimensions, including time and space and many, many more. Now honestly, we can end the video here. However, for those who are concerned with that of speed, since Thor transcends that of dimensions on the most basic yet fundamental level, he should logically transcend both time and space casually, as unlike Thor within God of War, whose scaling is a bit more convoluted, Thor, talking about the Marvel version, is much more straightforward and is just directly stated to transcend these things. For those people who are a bit skeptical and still not convinced, this same base Thor is able to swing Mjolnir so hard it casually travels back in time and space. However, Thor does scale to his hammer as he blatantly reacts to it. Even prior to this, Thor merely spinning Mjolnir is casually transcending the boundaries of time and space. However, these are just the low-level speed feats of Thor. Thor later on within his many comic book runs flat out becomes one with the universe and or multiverse and becomes nigh omnipresent. Omnipresence is defined as being nowhere and everywhere in tandem with one another, almost like a true dichotomy or contradiction. Realistically, Thor could just one-shot Thor and directly perception blitz Thor before Thor can even realize what has even occurred. Either that or with a single wave of his hand, and I'm not joking, a single wave of his hand can erase Thor and the rest of the verse from existence casually using that of the Odin Force. However, this video is base Thor versus Thor from God of War, so I won't necessarily grant him that. However, all in all, Thor from Marvel Comics should easily take the W and easily one-shot God of War Thor, earning him the win pretty casually. Now, if you enjoyed content like this, be sure to subscribe as it would mean a lot and truly be appreciated. And be on the lookout for Superman vs. Thor as that video will be coming out very, very soon. And I know a lot of people have been waiting for it and have also requested for it. However, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And with that being said, be sure to be and to stay safe. Have a nice rest of your day or night. And till next time.